and lost all the scares. Whereas Kubrick one gets all the scares right and fucks the characters directly to hell without a reach around.
Oh, speaking of fucking characters, A Clockwork Orange is a 1971. Master of the segue. A Clockwork Orange is a 1971 dystopian crime film adapted, produced, and directed by Stanley Kubrick, based on Anthony Burgess's 1962 novel of the same name. It employs disturbing, violent images to comment on psychiatry, juvenile delinquency, youth gangs, and other social, political, and economic subjects in a dystopian near-future Britain. It stars Malcolm McDowell, who you may remember from every villain he's ever played in every movie ever. He plays Alex, and Alex narrates most of the film in Nadsat, a fractured adolescent slang composed of Slavic languages, especially Russian, English, and Cockney rhyming slang. So good. It was made on a budget of $1.3 million. It made $114 million. Today, movie executives would be throwing eyes wide shut parties if their movies made that kind of money on that kind of a budget. To be alive in the 70s making movies. So the basic, I'm not going to read the plot synopsis, but it basically goes like this. Alex leads a street gang. They beat people. They rape people. They do some light stealing, as near as I can tell. Alex looks like he's on probation, and he starts to become a little too abusive to those in his gang, who then turn on him and get him caught during one of their rampages. He is then sent to prison, trying to get his prison sentence commuted early. He volunteers for a reconditioning program where, famously, if you've ever seen this, for those of you who haven't seen this movie, but you've seen this picture of Malcolm McDowell's eyes being held open, being pried open, and being made to watch film. It's like a Pavlovian conditioning to basically make him sick, like Scott Hall to alcohol, every time he sees any kind of violent imagery. But because some of the imagery also employs the use of music, specifically Beethoven, now he can't hear that either without getting violently ill. They run some tests. They do some a bit of pageantry. The board says, "Yep, you seem cured. Lots of luck to you." And they shove him out back into the real world. And this is now years later. He goes back home with his mom and dad and says, "Mom, Dad, I'm cured. Who the fuck is that in my room?" And they said, "Well, that's Georgie. He's part of the family now." And so he leaves. He has no home to go to. He runs afoul of the old man they beat up in the beginning, and he is beat to shit by a bevy of old men. He runs afoul of his old gang members who have now become cops, and they beat the shit out of him. And eventually he ends up at the house of the writer, whom is where the first attack takes place. And when the writer figures out who that is, he's like, there's a whole thing. Eventually, Alex ends up being tortured. He throws himself out a window. He ends up in the hospital. At the hospital, I can't remember if it's the governor or somebody high up in politics there basically was like, "Hey, sorry." They're trying to avoid a fiasco with him. So they're like, "What if, we get you a job, we give you some money, we set you up, and you forget this whole unfortunate affair ever happened?" And Alex is
please no sue. Please no sue.
Yeah. Why don't you just forgive us and the whole, be a thing? And Alex says, "Sure." And the movie ends with him having sex in the hospital with these two women. It's great. That is short shrift.
I think we all learned a lesson here.
Yeah. Did everyone catch the lesson?
It's really short shrift because I don't want to spend 87 years explaining everything that happens in the movie, but it's worth it to go back and watch. But that's the bare bones of it. Before I get into questions and we discuss it as a panel, I don't know if it still exists, but there is an actual Korova milk bar, or there was a Korova milk bar in Manhattan.
Yes.
That have you been there, Dorian? Is it still there?
Yes.
Of course it would be in Manhattan.
I don't remember if it's still there. I was there about 5 years ago, so I'm actually looking it up right now. Keep talking.
My friends and I, when we discovered that there was a Korova milk bar in Manhattan, we went there quite a bit and had fun. And it's a pretty decent reproduction of the bar from the movie, which feels otherworldly. So
It is closed now, sadly.
It is closed, yeah. As do all things as time marches on. So I'll go to you first, Mick. What do you want to talk about with this movie? Obviously, you've had some, positive reaction to it. You came here tonight all dressed up like a droogie.
I fucking hate this movie. What are you dressed as?
This is the worst movie I've ever seen.
This is how I protest movies. I dress as one of the characters. So tell me your thoughts on this movie. What jumps out at you that you want to tell the world, and avail yourself of your thoughts?
One of my favorite things in movies is if someone can create such a pleasantly visual environment almost.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, you still have normal, like more, I guess I would label as drab scenes, but it only depends on where he is in life. So whenever he's feeling like the height of himself in the beginning of the movie, everything's so colorful, and the milk bar and everything looks weird and fun. And especially my favorite scene is in the record bar. It's because if there was, or just a record store, I should say, if there was a record store like that open, I would love to spend my entire day there.
Did you find the scenery also kind of reflected that changeover over time from the more leftist liberal government in the beginning to the more right-leaning conservative government when Alex gets out?
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of trying to touch on, was just like as the movie goes on, you can see the scene. No, you're fine. No, I'm just reiterating. It's like it really reflects either his mental state of like, oh well, I am in trouble, and how am I going to get myself out of this? Versus in the beginning where everything seems all colorful because he's getting away with everything. And so, but Mark touched on this. I really like the dialogue, and sometimes I even make fun of it because I'm like, you have no idea what they're saying for the entire 3 hours of the movie.
But it sounds.
If you can't pick it up on it by context, yeah.
Right, but it sounds cool.
It's very unique in cinema history. Where most things are given to the basic language of the time. You're speaking English, speaking Spanish, you're speaking Italian, speaking French. And here, like, it's more or less English, but he is using slang in a way. It's like, I have a lot of friends who are 10 years younger than me. I work with people who are 10 to 15 younger than me. And sometimes they'll say a slang term and I'm like, I don't know what you just said. And that's a lot of this movie for me.
I think when it comes to Gen Z in particular, you kind of have to treat the slang like you're listening to Nat.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Lame Nat.
I think Mick's point about, and it's something that I was touching on before with Kubrick, Dorian, is how even though this is supposed to be near future from the 70s England, it still feels like a whole other world. This feels like this was inhabited by the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy, not not British street thugs.
Guardians of Clockwork Orange.
Yeah,
coming soon from Disney.
And one of the things that lends credence to that is the way he shoots things. I'll give you an example. Something we can kick the conversation this way. The second home invasion scene where he gets caught. Where it's the one lady doing what appears to be some sort of yoga. The way Stanley shoots it using some like wide angles, there's a lot of space in what he's doing. Like, if you've ever gone to like one of the like modern art museums, and the way there's like a little bit of color on a big white canvas, and this is meant to interpret something or other.
Evoke emotion, yeah.
Yeah, Kubrick kind of shoots the same way. We start as a wide angle, and then it kind of focuses on this one person or this one object, and we just sort of like follow that, as it leaves the room. And it just gives you the sense that this doesn't take place in our reality. So one of the things about A Clockwork Orange is that while the themes of it speak to things that are very real, what do we do about people who are antisocial? This is the word we would use now. What are we doing with people who, with these deep-seated personality and behavioral issues? Do we try to rehabilitate them? Are they can they be rehabilitated? These are all important questions. But it also makes it seem like it's science. Like, you would almost be tricked into thinking Clockwork Orange is science fiction. That's how this thing is shot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, the remember one of the shots is what I call the fishbowl shot. He's got a very extremely wide lens going on during one of the attacks, and one of the things that I think was great about it is it makes you feel like you're mentally being attacked too. Mm-hmm. And
I know exactly the shot you're talking about,
right? And it's a high angle shot down. And even the spinning around shots that they do.
Oh, and he's got the giant penis, and they're doing that. I don't even mean giant penis. Of course you would bring that up. But no, but that big.
Who had 33 minutes before Mark said giant penis? Was it you?
He's actually running behind by my estimate.
Can we get through one show where he doesn't?
He's about 8 minutes late.
But yeah, no, it's those shots like that, and I'm gonna bounce off because again, it was right in my notes as well. Here was that one of the cool things about the movie that I really appreciate is that it is a very bleak and horrific thing that we are going through. And the scenery is just it's in the way the house looks, the way they're dressed, the colors and stuff like that. It's beautiful. Like it's almost something like out of the 40s Wizard of Oz when she's come to Oz and it's colorful and bright and all that. And again, with such horrific story tones to it, obviously what's happening. And the thing that gets me is that this movie truly shows that Stanley Kubrick, I really don't think he should have been fully a director. Honestly, had he been a director of photography and then had worked with Scorsese or Spielberg, all of them, Spielberg's movies, whoever's movies he ended up working on would have gone up several notches from the great they already were because of his ability with that camera, his eye. But in this case, what I will say is that as a director, he does crack his knuckles really hard on this one in blocking along with his shots. The blocking of and the movement of the characters becomes a character itself, and you're able to see that arc through the movements. Like when he's gotten too rough with his gang, he comes down the stairs, and even though he's standing above them, there's this predatory sense to the rest of the droogs of you can almost tell what's coming if you read the room. Like they're done. This plan's already been made. They're just waiting for the opportune moments. The blocking helps that as well as the dialogue and the acting. So yeah, this movie again is a masterclass. Again, in school we my film school, New York Film Academy, they teach this movie with blocking and cinematography. I mean, as well with The Shining, but this one has some shots that are just so unique but so perfect to the movie itself. And I'll end with this. One of the best shots, and it's been used in a whole bunch of trailers and stuff like that, is the Dutch angled shot of Alex driving the car. Mm-hmm. That shot alone, with then you have to be any dialogue or music, conveys his madness and the state of his mind so well that it's as a filmmaker to learn from that, and find those shots, because that was Kubrick's power.
Sean, your thoughts on Clockwork Orange?
So, first off, while we're talking about the visual style, I believe that a lot of directors, in fact, every successful director, I believe, has something that they stand out as doing just almost preternaturally well. It's not always even visual. For Kevin Smith, it was undoubtedly dialogue. Mel Gibson has a real finesse for story structure. I love the way that in horror, James Wan almost never has a fake out jump scare. It's almost always just something that's right there and it's paid off legitimately in the moment. I could go on with more and more, but you get the point. One of the things that I love about the way Stanley visually built this movie was I saw this just to paint the picture, I'm 41 years old. I saw this in the back half of the 90s when I was in high school. And so when I read the book and I recognized that this was dystopian, kind of near future, I had a very different aesthetic that was kind of painted in my mind of what that future would look like. Because, and I think this is the beauty of literature sometimes, is the fact that it really does become timeless, because that was the time in which I was living. And so that was my impression of what that future would be. would be something that would probably be very kind of cyberpunk more than anything else, or Spider-Man 2099, or maybe a more modern Gotham City, something like that. What I didn't expect, what really threw me off, but did it in the best way because it really conveyed the intended setting of the novel, was the fact that, especially initially, everything was so sparse. Everything just, a lot of it did just feel so sterile white, so pristine, because it's so jarringly contrasted with Alex and his gang's brutality. It's a sense where you can film a scene like Fight Club, where you have an absolutely monkey butt ugly beatdown that's taking place in the seedy basement of a bar, and you're comfortable with it because you're thinking, yeah, that makes sense. I could see that. That probably kind of belongs in the setting. But then you're looking at this squeaky clean white living room where this horrendous assault and this rape are taking place in this seemingly otherwise flawless environment to these apparently supposedly flawless people. When he was on, he really had a way of taking you out of your comfort zone with moments like, and he did it in The Shining too, with moments that made you uncomfortable because that, to every part of you that was reasonable, just understood that didn't belong in that particular setting. And that was what threw you. Not that it was happening on a pile of bones, but the fact that it was happening in a shuttered, clean, well-maintained resort hotel. And I think that's what I love most about the entirety visually of the movie, is the fact that he plays with setting like that, and the fact that the way he shoots, whether it's the fear that's conveyed through the intensity of that fisheye shot, or pretty much the entire back half of the movie where we're really seeing the world through Alex's newly terrified eyes, it doesn't allow you to get away from the feel of the moment. There is no escape. You are confronted with the terror of this horrible, cynical hypocrisy of human conditioning, pretty much from start to finish. I love that.
I want to end the discussion with this. So obviously Malcolm McDowell's performance is stellar. Goes without saying.
Absolutely.
Preach.
My favorite.
If you don't mind me, would you mind if I threw in one thing, a little bit of trivia, since I never do this anymore? Sure. We almost got a version of this movie where Alex was played by Mick Jagger, the rest of his gang was played by the Stones, and it was going to be scored by the fucking Beatles. And it wasn't that there was even a creative issue. It was just the fact that the rights got tied up, and in the interim, it just kind of fell into Kubrick's lap.
Hard right turn that is from the Beatles and Beethoven. So what I was trying to get at was, and the last point that I wanted to throw out for discussion, then we're moving on. So obviously Malcolm McDowell's performance is stellar in this. We all agreed on that. We were all just saying yes to it. But I'll tell you, this isn't held up on his shoulders alone. Everybody in this gives good performance, but that's not what I want to talk about. There's a Kubrickism that I noticed in these three movies about the kinds of performances that you get. And it's maybe not every single character, but there's always at least one. Here, it's the guy playing, and I just had it. It's the guy playing P.R. Deltoid, I believe, Aubrey Morris. Him on the couch going, "Oh, you would have been nasty this, Alex. Oh, you would have being a bad boy, Alex. Oh, you wouldn't want to get me in trouble because it's a great thing for you, Alex."
You go, yes.
I want to get him, Peter Sellers, James Mason, and And the guy yelling at Tom Cruise, you made me look like an asshole in front of these people. I want to get them on a podcast and have them talk about McDonald's hamburgers or some shit. Because there would be Peter Sellers like,
in character.
Peter Sellers like, I ate a burger and the burger made me sweaty and it was very greasy and I didn't understand. Did you get a bit of the sauce? Did you, Peter Sellers? It's going on and on and on. I was in the bathroom taking a shit. That's what happened to me. That would be the podcast. It would be amazing.
And we'd retire directly afterwards because we're never topping that.
Yeah, no, it's that. Jesse takes the BDSM quiz, and I'm done with podcasting. Him on the it's so memorable because there's like so many like Alex kicking the guy to Singing in the Rain. The stuff that's set to Beethoven. There's so many like musical cues and notes, and you can get wrapped up in just Alex's delivery because it's so out of this world and so alien. But then you get that performance, and you're like, no one talks this way. No one. And it's like, Alex. And it's like nobody else in the movie is doing this. Like, where did you? And the fact that Kubrick and Mick, then Dorian, then Sean can back clean up. But the fact that he that was more than one take. It was done purposely, and Kubrick was like, "That's what I want out of you. You just sound like a complete asshole," and we're gonna leave it in. And it's like, yeah, this is totally a Kubrick thing. So so the topic is performance. That's what I focused on. Your thoughts, madam?
Oh, absolutely. No, everyone's performance in this movie and yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doing that at work now. Did you get your notes? Yes, I was sitting in the office all by myself. Yes, no one was talking to me. It was wonderful.
Another one that sticks out to me, it's such a small role in the movie, but that when he's getting checked into the prison and he has to empty his pockets, it's just pure general. Just like one chocolate bar. One pack of cigarettes.
I would have bet my daughter's life that was John Cleese.
Yes,
Manuel. In a weird way, it reminded me so much of Frank Oz in the opening of Blues Brothers.
Dude, I was just about to say that. You beat me by like 2 seconds.
One prophylactic,
black,
soiled.
But every character just seems so outworldly, which makes the whole thing work because no one is left behind in that.
Right. It is kind of like a drama exercise where the instruction was do a character, and no one's doing the same character, and it's like no one would put these characters together because they're all from different corners of the earth, but somehow they came together and did a battle royal, and at the end of it, Shawn Michaels won. Speaking of which, Dorian, your thoughts on performances and how odd they are.
The performances in this are fantastic, as we've already said. And you're right, Malcolm McDowell does not, excuse me, I'm so sorry, hold this on his shoulders at all. Everyone's pulling their weight. Even the background characters are on. I can name probably on one hand the movies where I felt like the extras were not just people who had been hired and be like, stand in the background, do something, don't suck focus.
I got the writer when Alex is singing in the rain in the bath, and he's making I just took a dump in my pants face. What again? Kubrick didn't just like, I don't know what he's doing. Just leave it. We gotta go. We did this on a budget of $150. No, he purposely told him to do that and kept it in the movie doing this.
I shit my pants and I'm happy about it.
Yeah, all of it purposeful. Keep going.
But yeah, no, it's the background characters feel like they're alive. They're a part of the world, and that's sometimes the hardest thing to accomplish in a film is getting your extras involved. And because it's like a gauge. Too little, it doesn't look like they're there at all, other than be like, "Hi, Mom, I'm in a movie. Hello." Too much, it's like I'm on stage and I'm projecting to the back row. It's like, dude, your job is to hold a fucking tray and have the lead character take a glass and then pivot and leave. Calm down there, Pavarotti. You fuck. Sorry. That's repressed memories from doing crew on stage.
I'm putting that on a T-shirt. Calm down, Pavarotti, you fuck.
We are not all Tim Curry.
Right. Hashtag Dorian Price 2024. But no, it's again, as a director myself, I really take a masterclass from the direction and that what the actors did, because it did feel like Kubrick loosened the reins a little bit, whether that was from the producers, the execs, whatever, because it feel like, with watching the rest of Malcolm McDowell stuff or watching some of the things that the other lead characters did in, which I'm not going to go through because that's a whole freaking IMDb page that could take a podcast itself. But you notice that this level that they brought to Clockwork Orange was not just Stanley Kubrick's genius and his direction. It was their own acting skill, coming forward and them being able to make choices and move with those choices, and Kubrick directing the choices that they did make, which can be the hardest thing sometimes with actors, is that trying to find actors that share your vision, but also have their own ideas and motivations, what they want to do with the character, and being able to meld those two together. And I found that a lot of directors that I've worked with, either as like director of photography or, as their first AD, even before I started directing my own stuff, would have issues with that. And this movie truly shows that if you work with your actors and you pick good ones, you get a masterpiece. And every performance in this, even if you can't name the character, if we held up a picture, be like, oh yeah, that dude who's like, yes, Alex,
like any good relationship, it begins with trust and faith in your partner. If you don't have that, you got nothing, Sean. Take me home, baby doll.
I think we've covered about everything as far as character goes. So I'll kind of segue a little bit with this one thing. And it's actually kind of one of the few I wish we could have gotten moments from one of my favorite movies. And that is, I wish Kubrick would have shot the 21st chapter of the British version of the book, so that way we could have seen Malcolm's full range from playing, the unhinged Droog to the whipped puppy cowering under the master's leash, and then coming back around to having a moment of clarity, and then pivoting into a quieter, more civil life of his own accord, not because anyone made him, but just because one night in the Korova Milk Bar, the pieces just all came together for him. I think that would have been a truly brilliant, and
from a therapeutic standpoint, that is the only way people heal, is by their own volition.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I have to imagine it's the ending that Anthony Burgess would have preferred to have seen of the movie. But other than that, I'm going to close on, and that's the fact that I'm fond of kind of trotting out and paraphrasing the Dave Grohl quote. You can sing a song out to 10,000 people, and they'll sing it back to you for 10,000 different reasons.